Welcome back everybody to another video. In this video I'm going to make a quick tutorial on how to run your separates or your pre-pro, which is your pre-amplifier processor, or in other words it's an audio video sound processor. And for those who never had experience with this or is curious on how it's done, I'll show you guys how easy it is, because before I did this I had no clue how simple it was until I got my hands on it. And for separate or a dedicated processor, you're going to have, but this is a processor, and then you're going to have an amplifier, which is separate from this, a dedicated amplifier. So on the amplifier part, I'll leave a link in the description. I made a tutorial on how to run your speaker wires from your receiver. For those who don't really know how to do it, I'll leave that in the description. But treat that as like an amplifier, because in this video we're just going to talk about the processor. On the amplifier portion, you're basically going to be it's going to be outputs for speaker wires, so you're pretty much going to run speaker wires out of the amplifier to your speakers. And like I said, I'm going to leave that in the description for those who are not familiar with that. But once you have that all set up, you're going to have to connect that amplifier to your processor, and it's fairly simple. So for instance, we're going to start out with the trigger out. So for the trigger out, this is your trigger out. You're going to run this to the amplifier that you want it to power on the same time. So it's going to be out of this into the in of your amplifier, so that way you don't have to turn it on manually. And like I said, once you have all that set up with the amplifier, you're gonna have to connect your processor to your amplifier. So in this case, let's pretend that we're running a 5.1.2 for your channels. That means you have 5 bed layer speakers, which is your main floor speakers. Then you got 1 amp or 1 subwoofer, and then your .2 is your height speakers. So that's going to be you're going to use your pre-outs. So that's going to be your center channel, which is 1, your rear, which is 2, rear left, rear right, that's 3, your front left 4, your front right, that's 5. That's the 5. And then the dot is your sub 1 here, so that'd be your .1, and then your .2 is your height speaker. So we're going to use the front height left, which will be 6, your front height right, which is your 7. So those will have to correspond with your amplifier, how you run your speaker wires. But like I said, once your amplifier is set up to run your wires to your speaker wires to your speakers, the rest is simple. So for instance, if I'm running center channel, I would take this RCA, connect this to the center channel, and run the other end on the amplifiers that says center channel. And depending if you're running analog or a balanced input or output, which is your XLR cable, you make sure it corresponds with your cable. So if in this case I'm gonna run a RCA on my amplifier, I just got to make sure it's on RCA, and that's by default usually most of the time, right? So that's pretty much the basis of it. And of course you got your front. Oh, let's just do the other 5 just to be clear, right? So you got your center channel goes here, then that's going to go to amplifier. Your subwoofer, you're going to run your subwoofer cable to your sub. Just going to run your subwoofer cable here, but this subwoofer cable doesn't go to amp, it actually goes to your sub, just FYI. And then you got your, so that's 1, your 2, rear left, rear right, front left, front right, right? All that's going to correspond, and all the way until you get 7, right? And you get your height speaker left and right. So that's pretty much it. Your pre-outs just correspond with your amplifier, and you're all set to go. The only last step you will have to do is basically set up inside your processor. Make sure that everything that how you ran it, make sure that you say that on the screen. You tell it what you're doing. If you're running a 5.1.2, you tell your processor that you're running a 5.1.2, and all your connections is corresponding with your amplifier and your processor in sync. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty much for those, like I said, who are not familiar with it, or don't even know nothing about it. And now you guys know how simple it is. So, and maybe in the future, why one person would choose a separate amplifier or separate processor from having a regular all-in-one AV receiver, which has a processor and amplifier in one. So might make that in the future for those, if anyone has a question about it or curious about it. But that pretty much gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Comment below. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Hooded Dragons out.